A billionaire CEO destroyed David's life, killed his wife and left him with nothing. Now the CEO's daughter is dying and only David's son can save her. But there's a catch, his son must die to give her his heart. Will a father choose revenge or forgiveness? Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. The sterile hospital corridor echoed with the sound of expensive leather shoes pacing frantically. Richard Montgomery, CEO of Montgomery Industries, had built an empire worth billions, but tonight, all his wealth felt meaningless. His 17-year-old daughter Emma lay unconscious in the ICU, her body rejecting the third heart transplant in 2 years. Mr. Montgomery, Dr. Sarah Chin approached with tired eyes. We've done everything we can. Her immune system is attacking the new heart aggressively. Without a miracle, we're looking at hours, maybe days. Richard's hands shook as he stared through the glass at his daughter's pale face, surrounded by machines that kept her alive. 5 years ago he had been a different man. 5 years ago he had destroyed a family for the sake of his business expansion, and now karma had come full circle. Excuse me, sir. Richard turned to find a man in janitorial uniform standing behind him. The man was in his 40s, with calloused hands and kind eyes that held an unusual intensity. I'm sorry, but this is a private area, Richard said dismissively, his grief making him sharper than usual. My name is David Parker, the man said quietly. I've been cleaning these floors for 3 years, and I've watched you sit here every night for the past month. I know about your daughter. Richard's jaw tightened. If you're here to offer some religious comfort or... I'm here because I can save her, David interrupted, his voice steady and sure. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Richard stared at this janitor, this nobody who dared to offer hope where the best doctors in the country had failed. That's impossible. Do you have any idea who I am? I've consulted with every specialist, every expert. I know exactly who you are, Mr. Montgomery. David's voice carried a weight that made Richard pause. You're the man who destroyed Parker Manufacturing 5 years ago. You're the man who bought our company's debt, foreclosed on our factory, and left 300 families jobless overnight. The color drained from Richard's face. Parker. The name hit him like a physical blow. I'm the man whose wife died because we couldn't afford her cancer treatment after you took everything from us, David continued, his voice never rising but cutting deeper than any shout. I'm the man whose son asked me why the other kids called him poor at school. I'm the man who had to sell our house, our car, everything, because you decided our small company was an obstacle to your expansion. Richard stumbled backward, his back hitting the wall. I didn't know about your wife. It was just business. I never meant. Just business, David repeated, a bitter smile crossing his face. My wife Sarah died 18 months after you destroyed us. She couldn't get the treatment she needed because our insurance was tied to the company you crushed. She died holding my hand, asking me to promise that I'd never let bitterness consume me. So why are you here? Richard whispered, his voice broken. Because I made another promise, David said, his eyes softening as he looked toward Emma's room. I promised I'd never let an innocent child suffer if I could prevent it. Your daughter is dying, Mr. Montgomery, and I can save her. How? Richard's voice was barely audible. David pulled out his phone, showing Richard a medical report. My son Jake is 18. He's been in the donor registry since he turned 16. He's AB positive, same as your daughter. More importantly, he's a perfect tissue match. Richard's hands shook as he looked at the report. This says your son is healthy. Why would he? Because he's my son, David said simply. Because I raised him to believe that life is precious, that we help others when we can, that we don't let past hurt stop us from doing what's right. But he's your only child, Richard whispered, the implications hitting him. If he donates his heart, he dies, David finished. Yes, I know. The corridor fell silent except for the distant beeping of machines. Richard stared at this man who had every reason to hate him, who had every right to walk away, who was offering the ultimate sacrifice. Why? Richard's voice cracked. Why would you do this? After everything I took from you? David was quiet for a long moment, his eyes distant. 3 years ago I was standing on the roof of this very hospital. I had nothing left, no job, no home, no hope. I was ready to end it all. Then I heard a little girl crying. He paused, remembering. She was about 6 years old, sitting in the stairwell. Her grandmother was dying and she was all alone. I sat with her for hours, telling her stories, making her laugh. When her grandmother passed, that little girl hugged me and said, "Thank you for making me feel not alone." David's voice grew stronger. In that moment I realized something. Pain doesn't heal pain. Revenge doesn't bring back what we've lost. But kindness can create something new. Something beautiful. Richard was crying now, 5 years of guilt and grief pouring out. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never thought about the families, the real people behind the numbers. I just saw profit margins and expansion opportunities. I know, David said gently. But your daughter doesn't need to pay for your mistakes. She's innocent in all this. I can't let your son die for my daughter, Richard said, his voice firm despite his tears. I won't allow it. David smiled, the first genuine smile Richard had seen from him. That's not your choice to make. It's Jake's. And he's already decided. As if summoned by their conversation, a young man appeared at the end of the corridor. He was tall, with his father's kind eyes and a quiet strength that seemed beyond his years. Dad. Jake Parker approached them, his gaze moving between his father and the man he'd heard about for years but never met. Jake, this is Richard Montgomery, David said. Jake studied Richard for a moment, then extended his hand. Mr. Montgomery. I'm sorry about your daughter. Richard stared at the hand, then at the face of the boy who was willing to die for his child. Jake, you don't have to do this. I've destroyed your family. I don't deserve. This isn't about what you deserve, Jake interrupted, his voice mature beyond his years. This is about what Emma deserves. She deserves to live, to graduate, to fall in love, to have children of her own. She deserves all the things I've already experienced in my 18 years. But you're just starting your life, Richard protested. Jake smiled, and Richard saw David's strength reflected in his son's face. Mr. Montgomery, my dad taught me that the measure of a life isn't in its length, but in its impact. If my death can save Emma, if it can help you become the man you're meant to be, if it can break the cycle of pain and hatred, then my 18 years will have mattered more than 80 years of an ordinary life. There's something else, Jake said, his voice growing softer. Something Dad doesn't know I know. David frowned. Jake, what are you talking about? I know about the scholarship, Jake said, looking at his father with love and pride. The one you've been working 3 jobs to save for. I know you sold Mom's wedding ring to pay for my school supplies. I know you've been eating 1 meal a day so I could have 2. David's face went pale. Son, I've been accepted to Harvard Medical School, Jake continued. Full scholarship. I was going to surprise you next week. I was going to become a doctor, help people, make you proud. Tears streamed down David's face. Jake, you are my pride. You've always been my pride. Then let me do this, Jake said firmly. Let me save a life. Let me be the doctor I was meant to be, even if it's only for 1 patient. Richard felt his world shifting. This boy, this incredible young man, was choosing to sacrifice his bright future for a stranger. For the daughter of the man who had destroyed his family. I can't accept this, Richard whispered. Yes, you can, Jake said. Because you're going to do something with it. You're going to make sure Emma lives a life worth the sacrifice. You're going to become the man who honors this gift. The surgery was scheduled for the next morning. Richard sat in the chapel, his phone buzzing with calls from board members, investors, and executives. For the first time in his adult life, he ignored them all. David sat beside him, silent but present. How do you do it? Richard asked finally. Do what? Forgive. How do you forgive someone who took everything from you? David considered the question. I don't think forgiveness is about the other person. I think it's about freeing yourself from the prison of hatred. My wife, Sarah, she used to say that holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. But you had every right to hate me. Having the right to hate and choosing to hate are different things, David said. Hate would have consumed me. It would have taken me away from Jake, and he needed me. Love gave me strength where hate would have given me weakness. Richard was quiet for a long time. If this works, I want to rebuild Parker Manufacturing. I want to hire back every employee I can find. I want to make this right. That's a start, David said. But the real change has to come from your heart, not your guilt. The operation took 8 hours. Richard and David sat together in the waiting room, 2 fathers bound by an impossible circumstance. They didn't speak much, but for the first time in years, neither felt alone. Dr. Chin emerged at 6 a.m., her face showing cautious optimism. The surgery was successful. Jake's heart is accepting beautifully in Emma's chest. Her vital signs are strong. Richard felt his knees buckle. She's going to live? She's going to live, Dr. Chin confirmed. It's still early, but all indicators are positive. David closed his eyes, a mixture of joy and grief washing over him. His son's sacrifice had meaning. Emma would live. Can I see him? David asked quietly. Dr. Chen's expression grew gentle. Of course. He's peaceful. He wanted me to tell you that he's proud to be your son. David stood beside Jake's bed, holding his son's still hand. The boy who had been his world, his purpose, his redemption, looked peaceful in his final sleep. I love you, son, David whispered. I'm so proud of you. You're everything your mother and I dreamed you'd be. Richard appeared in the doorway, his face streaked with tears. May I say goodbye? David nodded, stepping aside. Richard approached the bed, his hands shaking. Jake, I promise you. I swear on my daughter's life. I will spend every day making sure your sacrifice matters. I will become the man you believed I could be. He turned to David. And I promise you your son will never be forgotten. Emma will know his name, his story, his heart. She'll live a life worthy of his gift. 2 days later, Emma opened her eyes. Her first words were a whisper, Daddy? Richard took her hand, tears streaming down his face. I'm here, sweetheart. I'm here. I had the strangest dream, Emma said weakly. There was a boy about my age. He said his name was Jake and he was giving me something precious. He said to tell you that kindness is stronger than anything else in the world. Richard's breath caught. Emma, there's something I need to tell you. About the boy who saved your life. 6 months later, Emma stood at the podium of the rebuilt Parker manufacturing facility. The factory was bigger than before, with better working conditions and higher wages. Every employee who had been laid off was offered their job back, with a significant raise and profit-sharing plan. My name is Emma Montgomery, she began, her voice clear and strong. 6 months ago I was dying. Today I'm alive because of the incredible sacrifice of Jake Parker. The audience of employees, community members, and media listened in respectful silence. Jake was 18 years old. He was accepted to Harvard Medical School. He had his whole life ahead of him. But when he learned that his heart could save my life, he didn't hesitate. He chose to give me his future. Emma's voice grew stronger. Jake's father, David Parker, worked here for 15 years before my father's company destroyed this place. David had every reason to hate us, to want revenge. Instead he chose love. He chose forgiveness. He chose to save the daughter of the man who had taken everything from him. She paused, looking out at the crowd. This factory isn't just being rebuilt as a business. It's being rebuilt as a testament to Jake's sacrifice, to David's forgiveness, and to the power of choosing love over hate. Richard stepped forward, his own voice thick with emotion. 5 years ago I was a different man. I saw people as numbers, families as obstacles, communities as stepping stones to profit. Jake Parker's sacrifice didn't just save my daughter's life, it saved my soul. He turned to David, who stood quietly in the front row. David Parker taught me that the strongest man isn't the one who can destroy others, but the one who can forgive. The richest man isn't the one who has the most money, but the one who has the most love. Emma finished her speech with words that would be remembered long after the ceremony ended. Jake Parker's heart beats in my chest every day. Every morning when I wake up, I feel his courage. Every time I help someone, I feel his kindness. Every time I choose love over hate, I feel his strength. This factory, this community, this new beginning, it's all because one young man chose to see beyond the hurt, beyond the pain, beyond the past. He chose to save a stranger's life. Jake Parker will never be forgotten. His name will be on every product we make, his story will be told to every child in this town, his sacrifice will inspire every decision we make. And to David Parker, Emma said, looking directly at the man who had lost everything and given even more, thank you for raising a son who could teach the world what love really means. The audience rose in thunderous applause, but David's eyes were closed, feeling his son's presence in every beat of Emma's heart. That evening Richard found David sitting by the lake where Jake used to fish. The older man was holding a photo of his son, his wife, and himself from happier times. I've been thinking about what Jake said, Richard said, sitting beside him. About breaking the cycle of pain and hatred. David nodded. He was wise beyond his years. I want to do more than just rebuild the factory, Richard said. I want to start a foundation. The Jake Parker Foundation. Full scholarships for kids who want to study medicine but can't afford it. Kids like Jake. He'd like that, David said softly. And I want you to run it, Richard continued. You understand what it means to lose everything. You understand what it means to choose hope over despair. You understand what Jake would have wanted. David was quiet for a long time. You know, 5 years ago, if someone had told me I'd be sitting here with you, making plans to honor my son's memory together. I'd have thought they were insane. What changed? Richard asked. I learned that hatred is a prison we build for ourselves, David said. But love? Love is the key that sets us free. Jake didn't just save Emma's life. He saved mine too. He saved yours. He saved all of us. The two men sat in comfortable silence as the sun set over the lake, planning a future built on the foundation of a young man's sacrifice and an old man's forgiveness. Emma Montgomery Parker graduated from Harvard Medical School with highest honors. She had legally changed her name to honor the boy whose heart beat in her chest. Her graduation speech was titled, "The Heart of Forgiveness, A Lesson in Love." David Parker, now director of the Jake Parker Foundation, had seen over 200 students receive full medical scholarships. Each scholarship recipient was required to spend 1 year providing free medical care to underserved communities. Richard Montgomery had stepped down as CEO of Montgomery Industries, choosing instead to dedicate his life to philanthropy. He had given away 90% of his wealth to various causes, keeping only enough to live simply and comfortably. On the 5th anniversary of Jake's sacrifice, the three of them, Emma, David, and Richard, stood together at Jake's grave. The headstone read, Jake Parker, beloved son, healer of hearts, teacher of love. Emma placed a stethoscope on the grave, the same one she had used during her residency. Thank you, Jake, for everything. David placed a photo of the newest scholarship recipients, 12 bright young people from disadvantaged backgrounds who would become doctors because of Jake's legacy. Richard placed a letter, a thank you note from a mother whose child had been saved by one of the Jake Parker Foundation doctors. As they walked away together, Emma felt Jake's heart beating strong and steady in her chest. She knew that love had won. Love had conquered hate, forgiveness had triumphed over revenge, and kindness had proven stronger than any force in the world. The story of Jake Parker would be told for generations, not as a tale of sacrifice, but as a testament to the transformative power of love. In choosing to save his enemy's daughter, he had saved them all. And in the end, that's what heroes do. They don't just save lives, they save souls. They don't just heal bodies, they heal hearts. They don't just change the present, they transform the future. Jake Parker's heart still beats today in Emma's chest, in David's forgiveness, in Richard's transformation, and in every act of kindness inspired by his story. Some gifts are so precious that they keep giving long after the giver is gone. Jake's gift was the greatest of all. The gift of love conquering hate, the gift of forgiveness healing wounds, the gift of sacrifice creating hope. And that gift will beat on, forever and always, in the hearts of all who hear this story and choose love over hate, forgiveness over revenge, and kindness over cruelty.